has turned out as a book. So I'd like to just to talk to you, just to give you some idea of what I've been doing. This is part of the work on ethics of information technology that I've been working on. The idea is that in social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter, you seem to have a new aspect or even a new existence of a self that is sometimes related to you more or less, and that is the problem that I'm investigating. How one creates a self in the online world. As I said, it was presented at a conference called the Power of Information conference, and they invited me there some years ago. So here is the outline, background, the problem, my argument, specific relevance, listed versus active information on online identity. We are going to see that in the detail that I'm going to talk about. And certainly ethical issues, especially concerning privacy, and then some conclusion. So here's the main problem. We all know, we all use, I don't believe anybody here does not have a Facebook account. It has become a given, like, you know, everybody has a cell phone, and then everybody has a Facebook account. So social networking sites are created for connecting people together. Everybody knows that. But the technology mediates. The communication is not face to face. It's not what we are doing right now, right? It's the technology. In most cases, it's the cell phone that you are holding that mediates the communication with the other person you are talking with. So, problem is how the mediation kind of distorts or enhances or has any kind of impact on the communication. And philosophers are usually interested in the problem of authenticity. So the problem becomes how or whether it is possible to have, authentic communication, whatever that means. That is a topic of investigation. But is it possible to have authenticity? When we talk to someone on Facebook or through Skype, like we are doing, what kind of things, what kind of situation arises that might that could distort the authenticity. That is the problem. So as I said, it creates a gap between two people who are communicating, two or more people. And it also creates a persona. Persona functions like a mask that people in ancient times wear when they appear on stage, doing a drama. And there are a lot of works in the literature on, in the social sciences, sociology of communication, for example, that study how people behave when they talk with one another, how they, make themselves appear in one way or the other when they communicate, even though it's face-to-face communication. So we don't need to talk about technology-mediated communication. But the creation of persona becomes like more like pronounced, more significant when we have the technology that mediates. So in some cases, the real self, I don't know whether there is such a thing, but let us suppose that there is a real self. That is, for example, the one that is standing and talking to you at this moment. And the persona, for example, my Facebook profile or my Twitter profile and others. In some cases, they do not exactly match. I have a number of friends who have multiple Facebook accounts. Just one person, and they have like 2 or 3 Facebook accounts. They use one account for professional reasons, right? Communicating with clients or customers or their bosses or their colleagues in the company. That is one account, one Facebook profile. Another profile is for more personal reasons, for their girlfriends or boyfriends or close circle of friends. When they go drinking together, they post those pictures on this account, but not on the professional account. So we are talking about multiple masks, right? Personas. And how are they related to the real self? How we get into the actual metaphysical analysis of the whole thing. That is my project. It's a philosophical project, right? But then, as I said, there is the metaphysical problem of what constitutes matching between the user, the real self, and the personas. And there is also a deeper problem of what makes up the identity of the self, the online self. We are talking about Facebook profiles, for example. I usually talk about Facebook as examples because it's the most used of all the social networking sites. I could have talked about Twitter and so on, but not as many people are using those as they do Facebook. We are not talking here about the real self or the self that is housed inside a flesh and blood body, which has been the subject of philosophical investigation for like millennia. But we are talking about the self as they appear as profiles, for example on Facebook. The same type of question: what constitutes their status as a self on Facebook, and what constitutes their identity. And another very related phenomenon is the friending phenomenon. People, the word friend in English has become a verb. So people friend one another on Facebook, and I think the word is unfriend, right? Or defriend, unfriend, right? It's a verb, to unfriend someone, right? They unfriend other people on Facebook also. So who are we unfriending? Who are we friending? If people have multiple Facebook accounts constituting multiple persona, the question becomes more complicated. So, as a way of illustrating the problem, this is a real world problem. the purpose is just to ask you to look at the headline. I am real. You is getting harder to tell on the internet because there are bots, right? And so
why do you think, Professor, why do you think people get to technology to communicate more than real life communication?
One answer is that because it's there. It's the most simple answer, and it's the kind of answer that perhaps engineers want to giving. I mean, because the technology is there, because the possibility is there, then people use it. Why do people communicate with one another on Facebook? Because the computer is there, the Wi-Fi connection is there, the cell phone is there, and whatnot. But perhaps that is not the last answer that we can give. Simply because the technology is there doesn't mean that we have to use it. After all, it's the technology that has been invented to serve our purpose. And perhaps it's a chicken and egg problem. People need to communicate with one another, and then they search for technology. The technology might have been there for other reasons. For example, the computer and the internet and so on. But then people see another use of the technology that fits their purpose, so they kind of draw up the technology to serve their purposes. One way or the other, or both, could be like that. So I have to tell you, I forgot the story here, and I cannot read it anyway. So just look at the headline as a way of illustrating the problem. It does not exist only in philosophy or in academic classrooms. It's a real world problem because we are talking about
How is it any different than inauthentic communication in face-to-face in the real world?
Perhaps it is not too different because people do put on masks and they pretend to be whomever that they are not. They are not the case in the real world. People put up. Pretend to be another or intend to deceive another in the real world. But when we have the technology, sorry, I forgot who this woman is. It has to do with personating someone or pretending to be someone else, and you present who you are not actually are on Facebook. On Facebook, the problem perhaps is more compounded because what you have is only the information provided by the media. Whereas face-to-face, you are sitting here and there are more cues that I can judge whether you are for real or not. Right? Something like that. Another clip on Stephen Hawking, Vader, and being more machine than human. I think the idea is, being more machine than human. Because Stephen Hawking, he is, as we all know, he's confined to his wheelchair and he cannot just talk directly. He has to use some technological means to interpret the signal coming from his, I don't know, his brain or his fingers or whatnot, to a speech generation technology. So what we are hearing when we listen to Stephen Hawking's talk is not his real voice. That does not come from his throat. It comes from a computer. So a lot of technology is mediating itself. I think that's the idea of the clip. Something is missing here, a lot here. And this can go on a long time. And I think I have to go back to my office and fill these missing parts. And something happened during the transfer of the file. Anyway, we come here to the stuff of my argument, which is based on Buddhist philosophy. So based on Buddhist insights and various other theories I propose, and that is the thesis argument for my paper, that the self is a construction. Identity of persons is constituted through external factors. What I mean here is that when you want to know what made up myself as an identical person with perhaps another person that existed in the past. Because we all have the belief that we are one and the same person through time. And it's a very basic belief, and it's a foundation for a lot of social practices. But when we think about what makes up the identity of persons through time, it's not an easy question. John Locke says it's our memory or consciousness, but I would like to contest that mainstream position. I would like to say it's more external factors that are external to our consciousness that do the work of constituting our identity through time. For example, one external factor could be your birth certificate. It's a document, it's not part of your consciousness. It's notarized by the relevant authorities, certifying that this person under this such and such name was born on such and such a date at such and such a place. And then you can have other documents or testimonies, also external factors from witnesses saying that the person born under this certificate is the person whose picture appears in such and such photos and so on. That's the basic idea. It's not your own memory, because memory can deceive you. People talk of the possibility of false memories, for example. But somebody might say, oh, external factors can be deceiving also. Somebody could just make up false documents, for example. That's certainly possible. There's perhaps no surefire 100% foolproof way of proving one's identity. And that goes along the line of the Buddhist teaching, because the Buddhist teaching says you cannot find identity or the core existence of your own self in the beginning. So there is a strong continuation between the self in the offline world, outside of the computer face-to-face communication, and in the online world. This does not prevent the online version of the self to be very different from the offline self, however. And this might appear to contradict what I have said earlier when I said that people put up multiple online accounts. However, the idea here is that when you put up information that makes up one online persona, the information has to come from your kind of a set repertoire, your set of familiar information anyway. You cannot just make up a person who is totally alien from your knowledge, your background, your situation, because you simply do not have the information. For example, if I want to make up a persona of an African king in the past, like 300 years ago, I simply don't have the information of what he says or what language he speaks, what kind of worldview he has, and so on. So the persona just does not work. Since information plays a very large role in all this, there does not seem to be a way that people can pretend to be others too much. That is the basis for my talk here about continuation, linking strong links that are very difficult to break between the offline and the online selves, and that is the basic idea. And as I said in the outline, listed and active information. Listed information is what is found in someone's profile page. For example, if you look up on my Facebook account, you just go to facebook.com/Soraj, S-O-R-A-J, that's my first name. And then you get to my profile page. You see my pictures and some listed information, like teaching at this university where I graduated from, and so on. On the other hand, the active information is how that information is understood. How the listed information, how the information that appears on the profile page is understood, which is a contested area where many users create their own profiles, which may or may not resemble the real self. But as I said, they cannot diverge too much from their more or less real selves, the ones they are familiar with, because of the problem of the lack of information that I just said. So that's the idea. And this is the last one. Facebook and Google Plus require users to disclose their real identities. And this is a controversial issue in Thailand, Thai society, because many Thai people, when they use Facebook, do not want to use their real names. They don't want to disclose who they really are. On the contrary, they make up pseudonyms, made up names, which are known to their close friends. But they use pseudonyms in order that other people who are not among their close circles do not know who they are. They have to tell. For example, I might use Facebook under a different name, and I would like Gary to become my friend to that profile. So I tell Gary, here's my pseudonym that I'm using on Facebook, and this is very much a normal practice of Thai Facebook users, especially the teenagers. It's a way for them to protect their privacy. But Facebook wants people to use their real names, official names. And the reason is that perhaps your long lost friend from primary school might look up a directory and they could find your name, and they have no ways to know your pseudonyms or your pet names or your nicknames. They know your official name. So they look your names up in the directory, and then they can, your long lost friend can connect to you on Facebook. That's the reason. It's a vital reason, but still, many people in Thailand don't like the idea. Especially if Facebook is forcing people to do that. So I said here there's resistance, as I said, and there are ethical issues involved, and I have talked about authenticity already, and privacy, disclosing your personal information. I'm sorry, I have 5 more minutes. I think 10:30 I have to go. I have to fetch my documents for the meeting. The meeting is on the other side of the road, the other end of campus. So
I just have one extra.
Yeah.
Just, a friend of mine who lives in the U.S. Virtually her whole life is on Facebook.
Yeah.
What they're eating, what they're wearing, what their parties they're having, where they're going, where they're coming, and eventually what happened is they got robbed. Robbed. So
robbed.
they were attacked because the people who follow their Facebook have all the information about them. The number of people living in the house, what time they're there, what time they're not, and they also showed up as police officers in their house with their pictures and names. We want that person, and they put them all in one room, and they are looking for their gold because the pictures on the Facebook show they were heavy gold and they living very, high style living. So they don't have privacy at all, which put them into troubles. So Facebook eventually put them in troubles, and they will almost get killed or robbed because of that. It was on the TV that showed the problem and what happened to them. So I'm not really fond of Facebook at all, and I don't think it has any privacy. And if people want to communicate, there are so many ways to communicate with people. But a lot is using Facebook for bad, communication, to pretend to be other people, to know more information about you. They look to me like they're living in a daydreaming. They create their own other identity and they dream about it, they believe it. So they're completely cut off reality for a long time. You can see a family sitting in the same room, and the parents and the children, everybody has their own phone and communicating, but they're not communicating with each other. Which is a big problem now, and a lot of media showing that the people are losing the real communication because of the Facebook and the technology.
Right.
Yeah,
Thanks for raising this.
Also share something. It's very interesting that
Can you
open up our
speak loud? We can't hear you.
Thanks for this presentation. It just opened up our the connectivity around digital mind. Just to give some of the information, like we know that Facebook has a lot more falsification, hiding information, deceiving things. There are a lot more things around this. Just to get to the fact, I found some of it. I don't believe in Facebook, and I used to never believe in like you. And I think that there's a lot more communication resilience. But to come to the fact that it's not like self-hiding oneself, it is not only. Sometimes, I have seen several instances where there are a group of friends together, they have one identity, one Facebook, but when they communicate, they just communicate with one identity. So it is their collective one.
In Thailand, people do that
But
too.
the other part of the communication, the person is one, and that person thinks that this is one person. Okay, so there are a lot more discrepancies. And another is, in my country, I found that some of the school, when we get into the kindergarten school, the age limit is very important. So a lot of the parents, they go for the birth registration to be altered. So just extend it, just learn 2 years or get the benefit of maybe the admission. Because of that, as you said about the characterization, which has a lot of external influence like testimony or even the birth register, sometimes it is not even like correct one because it is also falsified by the institution because of the demand of the parents.
Yeah, thanks for your questions and comments. Yes, people do put up just one Facebook profile for a group of people, 3, 4 or more. In Thailand, people usually do this when the profile represents the group. I don't know, they do that. You from India?
I'm from Bangladesh.
Yeah,
I'm talking about not a group Facebook. It is a person having a relationship with another person, having a group friends around.
Yeah.
So the other part of the communication, the person thinks that it is one person, but they are communicating as a group with one face. So falsification of using a face, but you are having a lot of friends around you to communicate. So sometimes it's
not so often in Thailand.
Yeah,
Not so often.
I found it quite deceiving type.
Yeah, that's a difference in practice here.
And also some of the marriage in our country, I found the young girls, they post a lot of picture and all this.
Yeah.
So sometimes it has got the wrong intention in wrong hand. Some of the marriage already got broken because of some photos and things like that. There are a lot of ethical issues around it as well.
What I can share with you is this. When the internet first come to the scene in Thailand, like 10 or 15 years ago, people were more trusting. For example, it's not uncommon to see couples, husbands and wives, sharing one email account, or they share the husband shares his password to his wife, the wife shares the password to the husband, and they sometimes reply to emails as if they are one person. But now it's not common anymore. I mean, even if you are a couple, husband and wife, the phone is so connected to the person so much that is in Thailand at least. The husband is kind of reluctant to share his phone with the wife because there's some private information, and people come to respect that.
Legally, it could be a good plausible deniability. I know some bloggers, it's somewhat more sensitive information when it's posted by a group and we don't know who's behind the face. It can be a good way to share information. Definitely.
I'm sorry, I have to leave. You can continue. It's up to them. Please, the share. Yeah.